From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBIC, the Primetime Capper, and it is time for the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles Live. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same. What a day yesterday. We had our top 25 showdown games, and as you guys saw, Baylor did lose yesterday. Down goes Baylor after a 15-point lead that they had yesterday as well, too. They straight blow the game, and, Texas Tech looked really good yesterday. As well, coming off of a pretty bad situation with the COVID and everything like that, where they were kind of knocked out for the last few weeks. Got a big win over Texas Saturday, then come back around and upset the number one team in the nation as the number 19th ranked team in the nation. So it shows us how tough the Big 12 truly is. I think last night, though, I think we got a good idea that we're gonna have a lot of parity in college basketball this year. We thought we were going to have a lot of parity last year, but I think everything the only thing that was a surprise was UCLA reemerging as somewhat of a national power. But I think everything else was kind of already all set in stone. We even had a very predictable national championship game between Gonzaga and Baylor. And I know the outcome wasn't what a lot of people expected it was, but if you know college basketball, you knew that Baylor was going to wipe the floor with Gonzaga, a team that really did not play the same type of teams that they played. Yeah, I know they played a lot of great teams in the preseason tournaments, but the West Coast Conference is really is more like a practice ground for Pepperdine. Name the last time they even lost a game in conference, to be honest with you. And what really irks me, though, about the West Coast Conference, though, to be honest with you, is that Pepperdine and Loyola Marymount should be a little bit more powerful than they really are. If Gonzaga can recruit all these guys, why can't those two schools recruit all those guys? Because if you know the Southern California area, USC and UCLA are the big campuses, but preferred campuses, if you want to just go and get a good education, have a good site to see at, Loyola Marymount overlooks Marina Del Rey, and Pepperdine's right smack dab in the middle of Pepperdine. So, is right smack dab in the middle of Malibu. Sorry about that. So, this is I'm telling you, this is weird to me, but let me stick to the Big 12. They had like a big day yesterday. Iowa State barely lost to Kansas as well, too. So they had a lot of good things going on, and West Virginia got themselves a big one last night, and Texas was able to beat their rival Oklahoma last night. I know I had Oklahoma as the dog special in the Big 12, but that didn't come around. It looks like Texas Tech was that team that needed to get selected last night, but it was tough to fade a Baylor team, especially when they run up the score by 15 to start the game. But I always watch games like this. If it doesn't really matter when games start and the team gets out to a big start in that game, because if the other team can stop them from scoring and get a couple stops in a row, get themselves a quick 7 or 8 points, now we have ourselves a different basketball game. So you always have to look at it like every 5 minutes on how things are going in these games. It's not about how the game starts, it's about how the game finishes. And so pretty much Texas Tech finished the job last night. They were able to put Baylor right where they wanted him to. And I felt like Baylor started to look kind of like the Baylor that we're all pretty much used to over the years. So a team that is really good, but they just can't finish. Now, they've done a great job over the last 21 games of showing us how excellent basketball is supposed to look, but they just got upended last night, and they play in a tough conference. So this team is going to be very prepared when it comes down to the tournament, and the whole conference should be very prepared too, because they're bringing it every single night in the Big 12. So you have to appreciate that fact as well too. And, it's just huge. And all in all, I think when we look at who's going to go to number one this week. I would say that most likely after what happened yesterday in the Auburn game, I would say Auburn should be going to number one because Auburn has played against some pretty good teams. Battle for Atlantis, and they're already 4-0 in conference play with 2 wins over ranked opponents, and then they get a big win over Alabama team that beat Gonzaga, and they got the whole world when they beat Gonzaga. So why not Auburn? Auburn, I think, deserves to be the number one team in the nation because we don't have any more undefeated teams. And when you look at the resume, they really do stand up with the best of them, and they are possible Final Four team. I know for a fact that they are more than likely a Sweet 16 team at the least. So, college basketball is getting really exciting. So we're going to see how it goes, see how it shakes out. But, let's go ahead and jump into the other college sport that we have here. And that's going to be in the college ranks. And we're going to have DTR. DTR is a very, very good athlete. UCLA is very blessed to have him, and they've been able to help him grow since he's came in as a redshirt freshman. He had to sit out. He sat out his first year, and then you know what? There was a lot of different little speculations going around and everything like that. But he still wound up winning the job and still wound up being the UCLA quarterback for the last 3.5 years or so. So I think that DTR has came into his own, and I think that he can be the most exciting player coming back to college football next season, just off the preseason hype alone. And I think that with him coming back to engineer a team that's about to have a lot of really good prospects coming in from a great recruiting class for Chip Kelly, I think UCLA is on to something here. And UCLA quite possibly could be the favorites in the Pac-12 West moving forward next season as well, too, because they have a fifth-year senior at quarterback, a guy that knows what he's doing, pretty much a grown man playing against little kids. And then you have a team that is tasted some success. They were able to crush their rivals as well, too. They got a monster win on a team that was 2 years removed from a national championship. There's a lot of things that make this team confident going into next season. And after you miss your bowl game because of a late COVID situation, then this really puts more fuel to the fire. I think UCLA is out to prove a point next season, and DTR stuck around because he wants to be there to lead this team back into the moment to where UCLA becomes a factor again in West Coast football and also in national football as well, too. The key goal and end goal is not winning a national championship for UCLA first. It's about getting back to the Rose Bowl, a game that they at least played in twice a decade. Each one of these, each decade out the last 100 years, but we haven't even seen, or they haven't even sniffed the Rose Bowl since 1998. That's been a long time. I was in middle school back the last time. Actually, freshman in high school the last time UCLA went to a Rose Bowl in a loss to Wisconsin. Ron Dane was the big star for Wisconsin at that time as well, too. But DTR, he gives UCLA fans and the alumni a lot to look forward for next season. This is a monster move. And with all that speculation with different transfers coming to UCLA, DTR sticks around so they can go ahead and nip that in the butt. And then there's a player right now at UCLA that I feel if anything happens to DTR next year, they'll be in good hands. Justin Martin of Inglewood High School, a kid that was able to engineer 106-0 win over rival Centennial. And I know a lot of people did not like that the score was ran up, but in my old coaching adage, in my old coaching days, if you can't stop them, they're going to just keep going at it. They're just going to keep scoring. So you can't get mad at the other team for doing what they for executing and your team not executing. So, pretty much I don't get mad about those things. I just say the other team needs to get better. And it's that simple. You're not running up the score. You're not showing off or anything like that. You're just beating them down because that's what you came to do. You didn't come to have a 1-point win over anybody. And I like that type of attitude. And I think UCLA needs a type of quarterback like that can drop 60 on you like it's no tomorrow. And I think that he has the capability of making UCLA a high-end offense the way that Chip Kelly had it over at UCLA. So that's why I know he was a top recruit for this team as well, too. I just am really excited about the future of UCLA football at this point. And hopefully Chip Kelly has put it all together to recruit a really good group here. And everything should possibly work out for the best for UCLA moving forward. So let's see what they can do. I would say that this team should be the favorite for the Pac-12 South next season. And if they possibly get to the title game, they can win that title game as well, too. But I know that they're going to have to upgrade that defense a little bit as well, too. That defense was the biggest problem for the UCLA team. And I know that they have a lot of really good players coming in on the defensive side in that incoming recruiting class as well, too. So UCLA will have more about them as we see more stories coming out about UCLA football. So you guys stay tuned to that as well, too. But all in all, great to see DTR back with the Bruins over in Westwood. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to some NFL news. And it's the week for coaches to be fired this week. So a coach that everybody was caught by surprise Monday and didn't get fired was Joe Judge. Joe Judge winds up getting fired on Tuesday instead of Monday. So Joe Judge, a coach that went 10-23 with the Giants, and he continues the mediocrity of the last 6-7 years of this Giants franchise, literally since the last time they've won a Super Bowl, to be honest with you. Okay. Now, when they had Coach Coughlin step down, their Super Bowl winning coach of 2 Super Bowl rings, that was kind of like, get him out of here because he's really dogging Eli. So then when the fans got mad at Eli, then when you get a new coach in McAdoo, who was very heralded and hyped up when he got there because he was working with Aaron Rodgers, he comes in there and kind of ruffles feathers up when he says that, hey, you know what? I think Eli Manning's a little washed up. And instead of honoring what the coach wanted to do, like say a la Cleveland when they were transitioning Bernie Kosar into bringing in Vinny Testaverde, you let the coach go ahead and just release the guy. Nah, they didn't do any of that. They said, we're keeping Eli and you're going to deal with it. And he even drafted a quarterback in the situation as well, too, but they didn't care. So he pretty much gets fired because he's the one that says that I think this guy is a bit too over the hill for us to keep, moving forward with. And then Coach Shermer comes in and he is somewhat able to convince them that, Daniel Jones is the guy. And so pretty much he comes in and he takes over and he gets fired as well, too. Because I'm trying to remember the combination. Was it Shermer before McAdoo? It doesn't matter. It was all the same. They have their own ideas, and the Giants front office have their own ideas. And then you bring in Joe Judge. Joe Judge is a Patriot disciple. He's a Bill Belichick student. This is always going to check boxes with the New York Giants because of their history with Bill Belichick and their 2 first Super Bowls as well, too. So they're always going to have their little weak spot in their heart for Bill Belichick guys. And I think they overshot themselves with this one. They were thinking that he could be like they were thinking that he could be like a John Harbaugh, where he goes from being a excellent special teams coach to being a very good, great head coach. They had all the hype in the world about him. He went in there and he aced his interview. He did so well in his interview. They were so impressed because they weren't thinking about hiring Joe Judge. They just wanted to interview him, see who he was, and maybe we might think about this a couple years down the road. No, he impressed them so well that they said, we got to hire this guy because he looks like he's a leader of men. And the moment Joe Judge got there, you felt like he was trying to coach grown men like they were back in high school. And I don't think that works very well in today's NFL at all. I think that coaches have to be able to understand how the game is going and understand how the world is going and kind of be a balance for their team and everything like that. You don't have to be their friends or anything like that, but my thing is I don't think the military attitude and kind of talking down to guys who who've been drafted to play at the top level. You know what I mean? Sometimes coaches sound a little jealous sometimes when they start dogging these players out, especially the ones that didn't make it to the NFL. Not jealous, but you know what I mean? That, they're pretty much talking to these guys as if, they don't know the game of football. They know everything about the game of football, and they're the ones that are out there to execute. And I think that he just could never get comfortable, because the worst thing he did was hire Jason Garrett as his offensive coordinator. He hired a guy who was fresh off of being fired from their arch rival, the Dallas Cowboys. And when you thought about it, you would have told yourself Jason Garrett was the one that should have been the head coach. And he wasn't. He was the offensive coordinator, and they go ahead, they give him an offense that he can't get busy with. You know what I mean? Because Jason Garrett is a great offensive mind. It's just that he didn't have the playmakers to make anything happen with this Giants team. And then when you saw them step it up in games, that was because there was something going on in the matchup, and that it would make them look really good. And when the Giants are scoring points, they look really, really good. Barkley, when he's rolling, it's a fun thing to watch. When Jones is rolling, he's one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. And when that wide receiver trio gets going, they're pretty good. And this is even after OBJ. So, there's a lot to look for. There's a lot of positives going on the field, on the roster with the Giants. But I just thought that the coaching of this team was absolutely terrible for the last 2 years. And it really, really hit rock bottom this season, especially when they had to fire Jason Garrett. They had to fire another offensive coach mid-season. And then, they had a big fight during the preseason as well, too. And coach goes out, and instead of just saying, okay, I understand this is football, guys are getting mad, it's getting tired of looking at each other, he goes out there and makes them run lines for like an extra hour. But did this help the team be more disciplined this season? No, it did not, because the team never respected you in the first place, because you didn't have any credibility. You were just a part of a staff in New England, and you really had to impress these guys. And I don't think he ever did. And I think he was able to make the front office comfortable, but he never made the locker room comfortable. And as a head coach in this league, you have to make the locker room comfortable, because wins will really determine how the front office is truly going to feel about you. Yeah, you can butter them up, and when they take you out to breakfast in the morning, tell them all these great things about themselves. But at the end of the day, this is a dog-eat-dog world, and you got to win football games, and he didn't win football games. So it's that simple. Joe Judge, back to the coordinator ranks, in my opinion. I don't think that this guy should be considered for another NFL head coaching job anytime soon. Maybe college, because this seemed like that was the best fit for Joe Judge, that maybe could have did the Bill O'Brien route, where you go be a college coach at a significant school, then you come back to the NFL. But time will tell. We'll never know. But Joe Judge is no longer the coach of the New York Giants. And I'm going to go ahead and end it with this. I would say this for the New York Giants. I know this seems like a kick in a dead horse, and this is the longest shots of all long shots, because I think he's fairly comfortable where he's at. But why don't you go ahead and try to see if you can kick the tires on Bill Belichick? This could be the best time to pull Bill Belichick away from New England, with him knowing that this is not going to be the same party it was with Tom Brady. They can still be consistent winners, but they're not going to be winning any Lombardis. But I think that he can go to New York, and they can give him free reign to build the team that he exactly wants to build. And when you see the kind of the disenchantment that goes on with Belichick and the owner, with the owner coming out with the book and everything like that, the writing's on the wall, in my opinion, for Belichick just to walk away from this New England situation and become the CEO somewhat of one of these franchises when it comes to making the moves for these teams as well, too. So there it is. That covers the first segment of the show today. And pretty much when we get back, you know what time it is. We're going to talk the state of the Lakers. Then we're going to get into NBA Wednesday night. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles Live.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we are back. So let's go ahead and jump into this this Lega game real quick. So pretty much we have ourselves a pretty good game tonight going on with the Lakers. This will be their final game of the season versus this will be their final game of the season versus the Kings. So the Kings coming in here losers of their last 5 in a row. So pretty much we have ourselves a very, very good, it's a good spot for the Lakers tonight to get themselves a pretty good win. So pretty much when I look at this situation right now, you have the Kings who are 1-5 straight up in the month of January. As I said before, losers to 5 straight. They're 2-4 against the spread this month. Now at home, this team is 10-14 straight up, and then they're 11-13 against the spread. And when it comes down to the over and under at home, they went under in 15 out of those 24 games. Now, the Kings, they looked pretty good when Gentry first became the coach, but then the woes showed back up. I really do think that the general manager has to look at he has to go ahead and be honest with himself that this group is never going to work. So you have to figure out a way to acquire assets now. It seems like they've been trying to get rid of Buddy Hield for like the last 20 years. So Buddy Hield is a very valuable player, in my opinion. I know that they don't want to get less than his market value for him and everything like that. But I really do think that they need to start working on a way to make this deal happen with Philadelphia on bringing in Ben Simmons. I think that Ben Simmons can be the same type of player that Chris Webber was when he arrived in Sacramento. Sacramento was a real dormant franchise. Nobody really cared about him at the time, but they had showed some potential to be a pretty good team eventually. And then when they brought in Chris Webber, they were able to surround Chris Webber with some really good veterans, some guys that didn't get their fair shake in the league, some guys that were rookies that possibly, we don't know if you're going to be any good in this league. And they wound up putting together one of the best runs for a team that never won a championship together. They made a great 4 or 5 year run and had the Lakers literally, out of the playoffs in that game 7, but the Lakers would prevail to go on and win their 3rd championship. So, I'm just over here talking about how long it's been since we really been able to talk about the Kings. You know what I mean? So I think the Kings need to make those moves. And that move was made with one of their better players who was an all-star at the time, Mitch Richmond, but they were going nowhere with Mitch Richmond. So they really do need to try to make this Ben Simmons situation happen. He wants to be out of Philadelphia. I know he would love to be in the state of California. I know it's Sacramento, but you can still fly to LA every night if you have to. So pretty much, it is what it is. I think that this deal needs to be made and needs to be made in the next few weeks or so, to be very, very honest with you guys. So the Lakers, though, let's talk about the Lakers, though. The Lakers are, for everybody who's just so worried about them going off and winning 15 in a row, it's okay. They are chipping away. They have won their last 5 out of 7 games after a 5-game losing skid, after a 5-game skid. And you do have to understand that they did win 3 in a row before that 5-game skid. So the Lakers, it's just a funny it's just really funny with the Lakers at the end of the day over their last 15 games. They still are 8-7. Even with what people feel are mediocre play, the Lakers are still just, even. They're middling, as I keep saying, but they're starting to break away. They're 3-1 straight up in the month of January. They had their 4-game winning streak snapped in their last game against the red hot Grizzlies, who've won 10 in a row, including beating the Warriors last night. They're 2-2 against the spread this month. And then on the road this year, they're 7-9 straight up. This is their first. They've lost their last 2 road games as well, too, but this is their first road game of 2022. Now, you have a team that's 8-8 against the spread on the road, and then you have the Lakers going under in 9 out of those 16 games. The Lakers right now are 3rd place in the division. They're the 7th seed in the conference, and they lead the season series 2 games to 1. So last time the Lakers played here, they beat the Kings by 20 plus. They needed a big 3rd quarter, and this was a game where the Lakers were actually going through another little point in time where they were losing a lot of games in a row and everything like that. But I think the Lakers have found something that makes them very comfortable. LeBron at the center. So I think that if they're able to get into this game and get those high end, get the amount of points they've been getting, but getting good stops in the process as well too, the Lakers should run away with this one, because as I keep seeing this team night in and night out, I'm starting to get a little bit more and more comfortable with what I see, because they're starting to bring in. They've brought in players that have been able to fill needs. And that's being a good perimeter defender and just being a great team player and doing the little things. We don't need everybody to worry about being a star. We don't worry about everybody throwing LeBron the most perfect lob in the world. We don't have to worry about people making sure Russell Westbrook gets a triple-double. All we got to do is go out there and win basketball games. That's it, and that's all. And it doesn't matter who the top scorer is that night. Just get the win. That's it. And that's all. So there it is. State of the Lakers tonight. Game starts at 7:00 on Spectrum. So if you guys do have the Spectrum channel, you guys will be able to watch that Laker game. And I know up north, you guys will be able to watch the game on their local network as well too, because that game comes on I think it comes on NBC Sports up in Sacramento, or NBC or something of that nature. So there it is. There it is for the state of the Lakers. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the NBA Wednesday night. We have some great stuff. What's up, Posted Up Media? What's going on, guys? I hope everything is all well with you guys and everything like that. You guys make sure to follow Posted Up Media, good friends of the program. All right, so we move forward. Let's go ahead. As I said before, let's talk about NBA Wednesday night. And NBA Wednesday night, we have ourselves a full schedule. We have about 9 games tonight. And our first game up is going to be the Hornets at the 76ers. This is going to be their 3rd meeting in literally the last month. So they've already met twice in a row, and they switched in Philly. And Philly was able to win both those games. Now, just let me go ahead and give you guys a quick tidbit about this game. Philadelphia has not lost a game to this team in 8 years. They're not 8 years, but they really haven't lost a game to this team in a long time. They've won 16 in a row versus the Charlotte Hornets. And the funniest thing about it is, when it comes down to their all-time series, Charlotte actually still is 2 games ahead. That's absolutely nuts. But we can go ahead and just say that Charlotte took advantage of the Philadelphia 76ers when they were on some really lean years. So that's surprising to me that this team loses 16 in a row, but they still have 2 games better than you in the all-time series. That's absolutely nuts. So when we look at the notes for this, we have the Hornets coming into this game 3-2 against the spread and straight up this month. They won their last 3 games in a row, and they went under in 3 out of those 5 games. Now, when it comes down to their road efforts, they've had 24 games. They're 10-14 straight up. They're 11-13 against the spread, and then they've went over in 13 of those 24 games. Now, the 76ers come in this game red hot, 4-0 in the month of January against the spread and straight up, and they've won 7 straight. As well too, going back to the last few games of last year. Now, when it comes down to the over and under, they are split in those 4 games. Now, at home, they played 16 games. They're 8-8. Now, when it comes down to the spread, they're 6-10. And when it goes down to the over and under, they went under in 11 out of those 16 games. The 76ers are a good team, but I think that they're a little moody. You know what I mean? You can't trust them night in and night out right now. This team, I think that they really need to get Ben off the roster. But we already had I already had my rant about that. This is about the game. I think what happens tonight is that the Hornets, when they start winning games, they're a type of team that wins 5 or 6 games in a row, and then they lose 3 or 4 in a row. And I think that with the way that they've been playing the last few games, they're going to take that momentum into tonight. And they've already had 2 really close games with the 76ers beforehand without LaMelo. So they go into this game. I think that they're able to go ahead and pull out a nice little upset here. So I like them as our dog of the day. So there it is. Hornets plus 175 on the line tonight. And I'm taking them with the dog of the day bet in the NBA. So there it is. There it is. All right. So we move on to our next game, the Heat and the Hawks. This is going to be a divisional game. The Heat and Hawks. This one is pretty this is a like you would think that they would be a little bit closer in wins and losses, but you have a Heat team that's 25-15. They're top 4 in the East. And then you have a Hawks team that's 17-22. And the reason why they're 17-22 is because they're an awful road team. So I just had to go ahead and keep that honest with you guys. And they just came off of a road trip where they just were literally where things just did not go well at all. Okay. So they're trying to somewhat get back to normal, but it just seems like this team is just so inconsistent this season. But they were inconsistent to start the year last year as well, too. So it's like a watch out in the second half of the year. Now, the Heat are 2-2 straight up in the month of January. They've won their last 2 games in a row. Now, against the spread, they're 3-1 this month. Now, they played 24 games on the road. They're 13-11 straight up, 14-10 against the spread, and they've went over in 16 out of those 24 games. Now, when it comes down to the Hawks, this team has played 4 games this year, and they are 1-3 against the spread and straight up in January. Now, and also they've dropped their last 7 out of 10 games as well, too. Now, when it comes to the over and under, they are split. And when it comes down to the their home record, they have 17 games at home. They're 8-9. When it comes down to the spread, they're 7-10. And when it comes down to the over and under, went under in 9 out of those 17 games. So when I look at this one, it's really a game where I say to myself, we're not going to sit here and worry about what's going on the scoreboard. We're going to just get into this game, and we're just going to try to go ahead and cash a ticket. And cashing that ticket would mean let's go ahead and watch the scoreboard and bet the under. I think that's what happens tonight is that this game goes under. It's a divisional game, and this is a team that needs to play some defense tonight. And I think they are going to play some defense tonight in the Atlanta Hawks. The Miami Heat are a little down right now as well, too, because Jimmy Butler's out. So I think that this game does wind up finishing up being a game that goes under the 223.5 total that we do have here. So let's move on to our next game, which is going to be another really fun game as well, too. And this pits the Knicks versus the Mavericks at the Gatton. And you have Luka going against Julius Randle. And, KP, former Knick as well, too. He was seen as like the next up. You know what I mean? A lot of they hated the pick. Then they loved the pick when they saw how that he was Drago in the NBA. And then he literally split his kneecap. And, it's never been the same since for Porzingis. So pretty much we have the Mavs and the Knicks here. Mavs coming into the game 22-18. Knicks are 20-21. The Mavs are red hot this month as well, too. They're 5-0 straight up. They've won their last 6 games in a row. They are 4-1 against the spread this month as well, too. And on the road, they've played 21 games. They're 11-10 on straight up. They're 12-9 against the spread. Now, when it comes down to the over and under, they've went under in 11 out of those 21 games. So they've also had a push in that regard as well, too. So the Knicks come back around 3-2. straight up and against the spread this month. They've went under in 3 out of those 5 games. And then at home, they're 10-11 against the spread. They're 9-12. And then when it comes down to the over and under, they've went under in 12 out of those 21 games. So when I look at this one tonight, you have two teams that they say might have issues scoring, but with the 204.5 spread, I would say that the scoring will be opened up tonight. So let's go ahead and see how it shakes out with that, and we'll go from there. But I do like the over in this spot. Now let's go ahead and jump into our next game, and this is going to be a rematch from about a month ago. And this will be their final game of the season against each other because, the East and West only play 2 games, and it's a home game. And it's going to be the Cavs and the Jazz. And the Cavs come into Utah tonight, 3-2 in the month of January, 1-4 against the spread this month as well, too. They haven't started off like this against the spread this year in a while. So I'm not saying the Cavs are regressing, but I'm starting to say that everybody's starting to take a little bit more interest in the scouting report with this team. So you have a team that's been on the road 21 times. They've went ahead and went 12-9 straight up. And then when it comes to the spread, they're 13-7-1. And then when it comes to the over and under, they went under in 13 out of those 21 games. Now, the Jazz, on the other hand, a 28-13 team on the season, are probably dealing with their worst start to the season in any month. They're 2-4 against the spread and straight up. And they've lost their last 3 games in a row as well, too. Now, when it comes down to the over and under in these 6 games, they went over in 4 of them. Now, when it comes down to their home record straight up, they're one of the best in the league at 14-7. But when it comes down to the spread, they're only 8-13. So this tells you that this team is not, doing their job. You know what I mean? They're winning, but they're also, burning up money when you play them at home as well, too. So you have to put that in your notes as well. And then you have a over under in these 21 games. They've went over 14 times out of those 21 games. So literally every single game has went over in the last 3 months. Like, not every single game, but literally when you look at it, they're probably going over like 6-2. You know what I mean? Something like that, 2-1 at the end of the day in these games. So you look at that part, the Cavs play great defense. The Jazz have been really, really bad defensively the last 3 games, especially when you give up 124 points to the Pistons, who are barely getting to 100 nightly. So, I know they have some COVID issues and some injury issues as well, too. And I think that that's going to kind of play a factor into tonight's game as well. I like the Cavs tonight, not to win the game, but to cover in this game. So I'm taking them with the +5.5 tonight. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it checks out. And we move on to the nightcap, which is going to be the game of the night, which is going to be on ESPN as well, too. This is going to be the Nets and the Bulls. The Nets and the Bulls are coming in here 1-2 when it comes to the Eastern Conference, and the Nets aren't number 1. The Bulls are the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. They don't have the best record in the NBA, but they do have the 3rd best record in the NBA. This team is playing above expectations. They expected this team to be like maybe 4th or 5th, something of that nature, and they put everything together. No, this is pretty much a finished product. And I think that with the addition of a championship player like Alex Caruso, and then a high IQ player like Lonzo Ball, and then a guy that's seen as one of the best players over the last decade in DeMar DeRozan, and then you add him with Zach LaVine, a guy that's seen as an up-and-coming superstar. This thing is just like crazy when you start talking about the Bulls and how deep they are as well, too. And this team just loves playing with each other. And I saw that from when everybody went to a White Sox game and was throwing out the first pitch. So this Bulls team is going to go much further than a lot of people assume they will go. And they will be the danger in the Eastern Conference playoffs. But let me go ahead and get into the notes at the glorifying the Bulls for you guys, because the Nets are still the Nets. Kyrie's going to play tonight as well, too. That's why ESPN's all over this game as well. And, the Bulls got the best record in the East, so you have to be there. So you have a Nets team 3-3 straight up in the month of January, 25-14 on the year. They're 1-5 against the spread, though, this month. And then on the road, they played 18 games. They're 14-4 straight up. 10-8 against the spread. And when it comes down to the over and under, they've went over in 10 out of those 18 games. Now, the Bulls come into this game 3-2 straight up in the month of January, but they've also won their last 10 out of 12 games as well, too. So you have the Bulls that working that out in that accord as well. So pretty much the Bulls are taking care of their business, and they're also 15. They're 2-3 against the spread. So they haven't been covering, but they're still winning. Now at home, they've won the last 9 in a row, and they are 15-4 straight up at home. And when it comes down to their last loss at home, that was all the way back on November 22nd of 2021. So this team has been rolling at home, and I know that's going to play a big factor into tonight's betting as well, too. Now, when it comes down to spread, they're 13-6 on the year. And when it comes down to the over and under, they are split with a push. So when I look at this one, I know I just got done giving the Bulls all the glory, but the Nets have 3 future Hall of Famers and possibly this year's world champion in the Nets. And the Nets, I feel, have a real revenge tour going on with the NBA, especially the way that Kyrie has kind of been, outed and then brought back in, and then still kind of where it's still kind of sketch how they want to approach this thing with them. I think that they're going to use this as motivation to get all the way to the finals at the end of the day. And I think tonight, since the game's on ESPN, the Nets go ahead and prove a point and make the Bulls look really bad. The Bulls have been beating them all year, but the Bulls have only been beaten by so many points. Tonight, I think the Nets take the game right to the Bulls, and they just absolutely run away with this thing, because I've noticed this with the Bulls. They're a great team this year, but when you take the game right to them right away, they can go ahead and tap out. And so I think that's the best adage for the Nets tonight. It's going to be a tough spot over at the United Center in Chicago, one of the most heralded arenas in all of basketball, if not all of sports. But I think at the end of the day, they'll have what it takes to go ahead and win this game. I love them with the plus 110 tonight. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll see how it shakes out. But that's going to be our nightcap tonight. The game of the night, the Bulls and the Lakers. I mean, the Bulls and the Nets in Chicago. So let's go ahead and jump into our Talking Tickets segment. And you guys know that's what you guys pulled up for, Talking Tickets. So let's go ahead and talk those tickets. Now, up first, we have the PrimeTime PK6 at 45-1. We have East Carolina at plus 11. They're having a very impressive season. They're 10-4 going against Cincinnati today. And I think that this is a little bit of an overshoot. East Carolina's been playing really good basketball, and I don't see them losing by by 12 or more today. So let's see how it goes, see how it shakes out. Then we have North Carolina, Wilmington in this next spot. So UNCW, that's University of North Carolina in Wilmington. So we have the money line on them today with the minus 120. And then we also have the Maryland, Baltimore County, the famous UMBC, the only 16 seed ever to win in the first round of a NCAA tournament as well. And I'm taking them with the plus 105. And then you have Memphis money line tonight against UCF. I'm going to take them with the minus 120. And then you have Rhode Island playing tonight against St. Joe's. I have them with the 9.5. And then I end this with the Johnnies playing in a rivalry game tonight against UConn, and I like them with the plus 11. This is going to give us a 45-1 ticket right here as well, too. So you put $20 on this bad boy, you come back out with $900. So it's a small risk, big reward type situation. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But I really do like this ticket, and I feel like I put together the best possible group to go ahead and cash it, get you guys some money today. Also, if you guys follow me on Twitter, the bets list are up right now as we speak. So every conference pretty much that's going today has a bets list going. So you guys go ahead and check that out too for your resources as well. All right, so we have the NBA Super High Five at 39-1 tonight. We have the Hornets with the money line plus 175, and then we also have the over 204.5 with the Mavs and the Knicks. And then we also have the under 223.5 with the Heat and the Hawks. And then once again, the Cavs plus 5.5. And then we also have the Nets with the plus 110. This will equal a $39. This will equal a 39 to 1 ticket. And if you guys go ahead and put $20 on it, you'll get back $780. So pretty much another small risk, big reward type of ticket. But with the super high five, man, put the 100 on there, man. Put the 50 on there. Same thing goes with the pick six. Let's make some real money here. So pretty much, I'm giving you guys what is better than a lotto ticket. So let's go ahead and shoot for the stars a little bit, but don't go too crazy though. Don't go too crazy. All right. So there it is. There it is. All right. So pretty much we're wrapping up for today. I want to thank you guys very much for tuning in as well too. We'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have Mike Abadir here tomorrow with us to talk this weekend's football game with the Raiders and the Bengals, and also talk that Cowboys and 49ers game as well too. I think those are the two most significant games of the weekend when you start talking about these games as well too. I think those are the games that are going to probably get the most eyes and the most reaction and the most Twitter tweets and things of that nature. So we'll bring those games up tomorrow. So hopefully we'll have him in here to talk about that. And then we have some more college basketball to go over and the NBA as well too. So you guys make sure to tune in. And once again, as I always like to say, if you got a hunch, bet a bunch. Always bet with your head and not with your heart. The movement is moving. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles Live. And I'm your host, Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. And I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.